Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars The Force Awakens discussion video. This time, we're going to talk about Han Solo from the movie, and talk all about, what is at least until the Han Solo film comes out, a Star Wars story, Han Solo, one-off movie, I suppose, comes out. The last movie we're going to see Han Solo in, because spoilers, again, just in case anyone is still worrying about spoilers from the movie, I'm going to talk about spoilers from the movie. So yeah, that's your final warning about that. But yes, last movie we're going to see Han Solo in, because he is killed in this movie. So Harrison Ford got his kind of long time wish of kind of wanting the character to die. And in that sense, it's very interesting that they even went down that road. They had it happen, but I thought it was really well done in the movie. And in general, you probably know if you saw my video that I talked about before The Force Awakens came out, just before I went to see it. I was a bit worried about they're really gonna need to convince me with the old characters in terms of keeping them interesting in the new movie, but they definitely did that with Han, because he was always a character who I always liked. I never had any problem with in the originals, but he never stood out to me the way that it seems like he did to a lot of people, to the point where people were freaking out when he was in the trailers for this movie. But it was really cool to see him back, especially the way he kind of enters the movie, and then just seeing him immediately jump back into that role and be so perfect in it. For a guy who has kind of been on note for the past 20 something years about how he's not really that into Star Wars and stuff like that, to see him be in episode 7 and just get the character, understand this character being much older but still being the same character. Harrison Ford did an excellent job at portraying the character in this movie, knowing it will be the last time we see him on screen. And in that sense, I was really impressed, because, as I said, Han Solo, never really my favourite character. I always liked him to some extent, but I felt like this far and away was, in terms of a character-focused movie about Han, absolutely his best movie that he was in, even though it is his last. I think what I really liked with him is that, obviously I'm primarily, I suppose, known in YouTube for being a Legend of Korra fan. I like that they kind of Korra style used one of those original cast members to kind of really propel the story of our new characters in a kind of slightly different direction. That Rey and Finn were kind of, okay, they were helping BB-8, but until they met Han, they really had no idea what the endgame goal was for BB-8 and what to do. And him entering the story really changes things, because it gives Finn now a path to kind of potentially join the Resistance. It gives Rey the chance to kind of move past what she's going through on Jakku, and I suppose through meeting two younger characters for Han, it allowed basically him to get back into things in the biggest way possible. The hunt for Luke, helping the Resistance, reuniting with Leia and stuff like that, and trying to fix things with his son. It was really interesting how just those three characters, Finn, Rey, and Han, coming back together really altered all of their characters in some way. The Rey-Han relationship is definitely one of the best in the movie, just because she really begins to see him as kind of the father figure that she never knew in her life. And then he really, in a way, sees her as the successor to the ship, in that you see a few scenes where they kind of repeat the same things, that she's almost ahead of him on certain things to do with the Falcon. She has a huge respect for the ship and knows exactly how to fly it and stuff like that. So I like that they kind of set up Rey early on, at least before we knew about her force powers, as the kind of new Han in a way. And there was just that connection there straight away, that even after only knowing her for a little bit, he was willing to offer her a role on the ship. And a fairly kind of close relationship in that sense fairly early on. So that was really well done, and just the way that she was so excited about the potential for where she could go with him, knowing everything that he got up to, and was just kind of held back by her past. And especially when they go to Maz Kanata's castle, what she says to Han and what we know about Rey's kind of past is really interesting, because while they're kind of so similar in many ways, they go down the opposite road in terms of their character arcs with them, in that Rey is kind of held back by holding too much onto her past and can't look into the future because of that, whereas Han is trying to move past his past and what happened, and is kind of too focused on the future and what's next, and needs to kind of address what happened, go back to Leia, fix things with his son. So it's interesting in what they do, what happens there, that he obviously again tries to fix things there, and then his death kind of in many ways like it means that like Rey can't just go off with Han and kind of be a smuggler like he was, I suppose. That his death is an emotional moment for her, but it leaves her open to, I suppose, fulfill her destiny, go on this journey with Luke. And I suppose that only happens because she met him in the first place, and now she is not so much focused on the past and is much more focused on the future, which is hopefully with Han. So in that sense, I really liked his interaction with the new characters. His interactions with Finn were more kind of I suppose comedic for the most part, in that it wasn't as character focused as, you know, Han's relationship with Rey, but it was interesting, just like the jokes about how Finn said like, I'm a big deal in the Resistance, and he called him like big deal for basically the rest of the movie, and was kind of helping him along the way. They're just kind of bounced off each other very well in the movie, so I really did like that. Which I suppose leads me into the final real topic of this video, and that is obviously his family. We know from the novelization of The Force Awakens that Han and Leia are married. That's confirmed. So it seems like they just Han kind of left is basically what happened. There wasn't like a specific divorce or anything like that. It's just that they were married and at some point left. Now, it's really interesting that they went down this road, in that, okay, it made sense. Han, Leia, everyone knew that was going to be kind of an endgame relationship. Probably would have a kid. And we find that out. They have a child called Ben. Ben Solo, Organa, Skywalker. The important thing is that he's from the Skywalker lineage in terms of where his character arc goes. But they then established that they early on in his life, they kind of begin to sense some Vader in him. They sense this kind of, that he could be tempted either way by the light or the darkness. So they send him to Luke to, they assume, become a Jedi and kind of fix those issues that he could potentially become like Darth Vader. But Snoke then comes into play, and there's a lot of stuff I think still to come out in terms of some backstory. So like there's the potential, at least with maybe some scenes with Leia, that we do see some kind of scenes of what exactly Snoke was doing in the past and how he really got into Ben Kylo Ren's head. But it's interesting from there that obviously Luke, it seems like, wasn't the ultimate influence in his life, that Kylo tends to focus more on Vader and Snoke than Luke. So something happened there, and it'd be interesting to see what Luke's relationship is to Kylo, if there's any sort of respect there, given how much Kylo focuses on his heritage and stuff like that. But obviously he betrayed Luke, he and the Knights of Ren killed all of the other Jedis and left, and that was the fall of Ben to the dark side. And it seems like what happened from there is that it effectively led to Han and Leia's relationship sort of falling apart a bit, him leaving because he felt it would be better for Leia to not have him around, because it's this really interesting idea that when they do reunite, he basically kind of apologizes to her, saying that like, I thought that being around you would just remind you of our son. And she kind of takes this the other way. She doesn't like specifically say like, I never wanted you to go. She more says that like, I never wanted to forget him, which to me is kind of a different sort of way of saying that I never wanted you to go. And I'll get more into this with the whole Leia's character arc in the movie in the next video. That's the next one I'm going to be doing. But Leia's thing is all about the people she's lost over the course of her life, whereas Han's is obviously clearly about he left, like he was, that he wasn't as active of a father as perhaps Ben would have wanted, in that they obviously had to send him off to Luke fairly early on because of what went on, and then afterwards Han left, and like the book establishes that their meeting on Starkiller Base is basically the first time he ever sees his son's face when he's a man. So it's established that this is obviously the event in the past. The betrayal happened a long time ago, to the point where like they've had their son lost for, you know, at least 10 plus years or something like that. So that's interesting. And then, so in that sense, you know, the family stuff is far and away the best stuff with Han in this movie, and the scenes with Leia are actually really well done. Like I like that relationship from the originals, and they just do it very nicely here, that they're aware that they're older characters, but there is such a closeness to their relationship that it just comes out so well between the two of them. Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford, I thought, really worked well together on screen, just in the sense that this was a big emotional moment for the two of them, you know, reuniting, and then her kind of wanting him to try and fix things with their son, that she kind of knew that you're the one who needs to fix this. As Luke can only do things in his way, you're his father, you're the only one who could do this. And so when they get to Starkiller Base and there's that scene, you see Han sees Kylo Ren walking across that bridge, and he makes the decision to step out. He knows it's only going to end one of two ways. He's either going to be killed, or he will get his son back. And it's really well done in the sense of that Han has never been the character you've necessarily seen as being this guy who's like really in touch with his emotion. Like, in the grand scheme of things, he's never really had that many emotional moments. Like, even the big romance moments between him and Leia that you kind of point out are more of him being like cool, the whole I love you, I know. There's some emotion there for sure, but like it's him being more cool than anything. The scene with Kylo here is honestly like emotional, and Harrison Ford had to do some acting here in this scene, and just the moments of like, first he's kind of being a bit more commanding, like, let me see your face, like, you're my son, calling out Ben initially to start it off. It's just such a powerful scene. Like, a lot of people criticize it for being incredibly obvious from the very beginning of the scene that it's what was going to happen, and I think it is, but the thing is, you want to see what exactly is the reason for it. You want to see how big of a struggle this is for Ben, for Kylo Ren, and just see if in any way Han can get through to him. And it's working. You can see, like, it just in Kylo Ren, that it's a struggle for him to do this, that he sees this as the big step to fully embrace the dark side. If he can, you know, kill his father, the person who kind of represents these sentimental attachments to him, that will make him stronger. And Han, you know, offers, you know, I will do anything for you. And it's this really tragic line, because it's coming from this place of such honesty that, like, he just will do anything to help his son. But you know what Kylo's thinking at this point in time, that as much as you want Kylo to just hand over the lightsaber and, like, go with him and try and fix things, but really what Kylo is thinking, like, he kind of sees that line as a kind of like permission from his father, that you'll do anything to help me, the only help I need is for you to let me kill you, basically. And that's in essence what happens. And it is a shock when it happens like so suddenly, because they really extend the scene out, and that there's a reasonably long conversation between the two. You know, there's the slow handing over the lightsaber, but then just as you think he's about to go off with Han tries to kind of pull the lightsaber away, but he's still holding on, and then it's just like suddenly zap, lightsaber straight through the stomach. And I like that it wasn't like really quick, that they lingered on it. The hand on the face moment just showing that there was no anger, no super resentment at the end, but like it was a sense of like, I'm sorry that this is the way you are, kind of. Sorry that I couldn't help you, kind of thing. It was really powerful the way it was done, for sure. And obviously Han dies. He falls off that balcony, the bridge, I suppose, technically, and then the planet he's on blows up. So like, there's no chance in any way, even in the slightest, that Han is coming back anymore. We know this from obviously what the way they kill him here. Plus, I don't think Harrison Ford is coming back anytime soon. Maybe they'll get like a super cameo role in some sort of a flashback if they do it. But like, in terms of a main role, this was Harrison Ford's movie, and he knocked it out of the park in my mind. Just some really nice moments, like even just showing you that he's kind of the same character, but he's older and wiser, and in kind of good and bad ways, in the sense of like, his time as a smuggler is kind of up because he'd been swindling people for so long that no one was believing him anymore. Like, throughout the movie, they gradually set that up, that kind of his time was up, that all these people coming after him, his skills are really strong still, but the age is catching up to him, and it's kind of limiting what he can do. The novelization of the book shows that light speed entry into Starkiller Base, and that like, they survive and they get there fine. But they add a little extra scene in the novelization where he says, like, Finn's like celebrating, like, wow, we did it, that was the most amazing thing ever. But Han's really kind of like, what just happened there? That was a mess. And Finn kind of is like, what are you talking about? We did this like impossible thing, no one else could have done it. And Han is like, yes, no one else could, but a couple of years ago I would have done that perfectly. We would have just landed fine. We wouldn't have slid or crashed through all these trees and had a messy landing. So, the perfection that he kind of had before, like the really dramatic and well done kind of action things for him, aren't going as well as they have in the past. And just little moments showing that his time is up were very well done. And then another scene on Starkiller Base, Finn is like, we'll use the Force. He doesn't really know what to do, but he's just like, okay, the Resistance talks about the Force a lot. And then Han being the one to say, that's not how the Force works. That was probably the funniest line in the entire movie for me. Just Han, the guy who has never really believed in the Force, being the one to kind of say that to Finn. That's not how it works. And that was hilarious and really well done. And so, in terms of like, that's most of my thoughts on him in the movie itself. You get further development on him and Chewbacca, that they're still together. You can tell from the little scenes with Chewbacca and the times the camera focuses on him that Han's kind of lying to people, and he's just kind of like, yeah, he's lying, and stuff like that. But really well done. Now, in terms of going forward, I do want the death of Han Solo to be meaningful in the story going forward. I don't want it to just be this thing that's kind of forgotten about. I want it for Leia, for Rey, perhaps even Finn, to be a big thing. I want it for Kylo Ren to be this thing that kind of haunts him potentially. That he should see the moment in killing his father as the moment that unlocks all these powers of the dark side that he's been kind of held back from using because his father's still been around. But I'd like it for this to be this thing where he's so conflicted about what he did there, and that sort of thing. So I hope, I don't expect Harrison Ford to really be involved in like many flashback scenes, if any, but I want the other characters to reference Han going forward, that they have to kind of defeat the First Order for Han and the sacrifice he made. We have to help or defeat Kylo Ren for Han. I would also like to know, like, Luke, people are somewhat saying that there's this little thing beside Luke in the final scene that potentially was a little kind of a gravestone thing that Luke made for Han, sensing it through the Force. I'd like to see a reaction from Luke to what happened. Maybe, in him training Rey will kind of reveal that the death of Han is this kind of very tragic moment for her, and it might might be the one thing that holds her back from fully harnessing the light side of the Force. You know, it may be her one kind of hint at darkness within Rey, just that she kind of wants revenge on Kylo Ren for what happened, and that's not the Jedi way. But we'll see where they go. But for me, like, going to this movie, I was expecting, okay, Han, it's going to be fun, but I think the main characters are going to be more up my alley. I was really surprised with how much I really liked Han in this film, to the point where I'd almost say, like, I hope Harrison Ford gets nominated for like a Best Supporting Actor Oscar or something like that. I hope he at least gets nominated or potentially wins for this, because I thought this was a very impressive performance. He had the whole Han Solo, you know, cool, charismatic guy character to get across, but also a different, more emotional side that we haven't really seen so much going forward. The scenes with Leia, the scenes with Kylo, the death scene, all important scenes that definitely add a little bit more than he's kind of had in the past. So yep, Han Solo, really interesting. Next video in this discussion series is going to be Leia. It's probably going to be a bit shorter than this one, but I want to cover the original cast first, and then we'll get into some of the newer characters and that sort of thing. So thanks for watching this video, and bye.